guys, it's Meredith and welcome to the second episode of my witchcraft series. This episode is going to focus on the different paths you can take for your craft. Quick little recap, what is witchcraft, Wicca, and paganism? Paganism is an umbrella term for any polytheistic religion that is outside of the Abrahamic faiths. Wicca is a sect of paganism that is a very nature-based religion that incorporates gods and deities and occasionally witchcraft. And witchcraft is the basic action of manipulating energies to bring about change. Witchcraft includes the use of intention and energies, as well as spell work, rituals, whole bunch of good stuff. So if you have not seen my last episode, that goes over the history and timeline for paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft. It might be beneficial for you to watch that to get some basic information on, paganism, Wicca, and witchcraft before I start talking about the different paths that you can take. If you have watched that, great, cool. You'll understand what I'm talking about. So getting right into it, the first path that I'm going to talk about is solitary witchcraft. That is when a witch practices their craft by themselves. They are usually self-taught and they choose to work alone. I am a solitary witch because I really enjoy working by myself. I feel as though I am more connected to my craft because I work by myself. There are groups that witches can go into called covens, and covens are basically where a whole bunch of people practice witchcraft together and they work off of each other, share information, and have a good witchy time. Probably another reason why I'm a solitary witch is because there are no covens around me. I wish there were covens around me. That would be so much fun. I wish there was a group of other witches that I could just work with and talk to about witchcraft, but there aren't, unfortunately. So yes, solitary witches are witches who base their craft around themselves and work by themselves. Secular witchcraft is okay. So witchcraft is a secular practice. Secular means that it does not include any religious aspects. It does not have any gods, deities, goddesses, nothing. It is completely based around energies, nature work, whatever the person wants, but there is nothing religious about it. However, there are Wiccans and pagans who practice witchcraft and incorporate witchcraft into their religious practice. The distinction between it is that this is just a person who practices witchcraft that doesn't include the religion in it. That's basically what it is. Green witchcraft is when a witch incorporates a lot of nature, plants, herbs into their craft. It is very plant-based. A lot of their spells and their rituals revolve around nature, seasons, weather. Green witchcraft. Basically what it sounds like. Anything green, it's in their craft. Hedge witches are the coolest! I wish I knew how to do this, but I'm too afraid to do it myself. Hedge witchcraft is where their craft is based around working with spirits on the other side. They are very in tune with the spiritual realm. They're able to easily work with god, goddesses, and deities. They're easily able to communicate with, people on the other side. Little word of caution going into hedge witchcraft, know what you're doing. Because I know that there are a lot of hedge witches around and they definitely know what they're doing. They are very well versed in their craft. So when looking at this path, I wouldn't take it as lightly as you think you should, because it is very, very, very important that, you take the right steps in invoking spirits and you do the right cleansing and protection. It's a lot of work. That is a very hard path to follow, and I'm so astonished at the amount of people who are hedge witches. Kitchen witchery is where a witch will incorporate their magic into very mundane tasks, such as cooking and cleaning, a lot of housework. I think kitchen witches are so cute because they're baking, they're cleaning, they're making bread and all this witchy stuff. And usually what they do is that they use herbs that have certain meanings behind them. A lot of their intention goes into what they're making. And when they're cleaning, they clean with intention. Like, for example, say they're cleaning their room. The intention when they're cleaning in their room is to dispel negative energy. I love kitchen witches because they're just like popping a whole bunch of stuff out of the oven, and I'm like, I wish I knew how to do that, you know? Next kind of witchcraft is cosmic. Cosmic witchcraft is where a witch will incorporate a lot of astrology into their craft. They base a lot of their rituals and practices off of the alignment of planets, the moon phases. I do believe that they closely follow zodiac signs and their meanings behind them. So it's very astronomy, astrology, planet-based craft. Crystal witchery is basically where, the practitioner will incorporate a lot of stones and crystals with their metaphysical meanings into their craft. A lot of their spells and rituals and intentions usually work towards the energies that revolve around different crystals and stones. A lot of them also meditate with certain stones so that the meanings behind the stones will go into their meditation to further their intention. There is also sea witchcraft, which is where the witch will have a lot of their craft based around like the sea, the beach, the ocean, which I think is really cool because like I low-key always want to be a sea witch. However, I do not live near the sea. So they will use like sand and shells and, ocean water. A lot of their rituals and spell work can relate to high and low tides. Just really cool stuff. A lot of ocean work. Last one, which is what I identify as, is eclectic witchery. That's where, because I'm a Libra and I'm indecisive, kind of pick and choose little things amongst different paths and create your own. You don't really follow a certain path because you create your own. And that's what I do because I don't know what I like. I like a whole bunch of things. So I'm eclectic. So the next few paths that I'm going to be talking about are usually the ones that not a lot of people know about. They are hereditary, traditional, Gardnerian, and Alexandrian. I feel like a lot of people know hereditary and traditional, but the last two ones, I really don't think a lot of people have heard about those ones. I personally haven't. I thought they were very interesting when I was looking at them, but we'll get to those. So hereditary witchcraft is basically what it sounds like. It is where someone is born into a family that practices witchcraft. A lot of the knowledge that they receive is passed down through generations, and they usually have a lot of set practices and traditions because their craft revolves around their family. However, this does not mean that they are more powerful. Just because they have hereditary witchcraft, they were born into a family that already practices witchcraft, that does not mean that they have any power over any other path, any other witches. It just means that, in my perspective, they got lucky, Traditional witchcraft is where the witch takes a lot of inspiration from like historic traditions to incorporate into their craft. They look into the history of witchcraft, they look back at historic accounts, and that lays down the foundation for their own witchcraft. Like, for example, a lot of traditional witches will look into the history of where they live, and any signs of witchcraft that pop up, they usually incorporate whatever rituals and belief systems that those witches had in the past into their own craft. Moving into the lesser known crafts, there is Gardnerian, which is witchcraft that is based off of the original practices of Gerald Gardner. Gerald Gardner, if you do not know, is the person who originated Wicca back in the 1940s and 50s. Usually this craft includes like an initiation process and certain rituals and beliefs They have very specific traditions. I didn't really take the time to look into this one because it is closely associated with Wicca, which is a religion based, and this is usually, and I'm kind of just like talking about different paths, but it sounded very interesting from what I looked at. I remember the origins of Gerald Gardner and his path into witchcraft and Wicca was, you know, very, very traditional. Like there was an initiation he went through, there were certain traditions he had to follow, certain beliefs that were created. So the process he went through was extremely structured. And the process that he created into going into Gardnerian Wicca and, you know, witchcraft in general was also very structured. There were a lot of rules you had to follow in order to be initiated into this practice. So the last one I'm going to talk about is Alexandrian Witchcraft. This was a craft originated in the 1960s by Alexander and his wife Maxine. It is similar to Gardnerian Witchcraft since that's what Alex was trained in. It is somewhat more eclectic and generally focuses on gender polarity. This craft also includes like an initiation process and set beliefs and traditions. Alexander's craft includes ceremonial magic and Kabbalah, which includes or involves mysticism and occult. Some important things that I want to get out of the way for a second. You do not need to choose a path right away. To be honest, you do not need a path in general when you're working with witchcraft. It takes a lot of time. Make sure you take your time when you're working into this. Figure out what you like, figure out what you want to do, what you want to focus on, and then you're there. You got a path. You don't need a label either. Labels just make it easier sometimes for some witches. Like I enjoy the label because like it just shows people how indecisive I am, but you essentially don't need one. Another thing, anybody can be a witch. It is not just for women or female presenting individuals. A lot of people think that witchcraft is just for women, which it isn't. Men can do witchcraft too. What's funny is that like a lot of people think that, you know, we call them wizards, but we don't. We do not use that term within, you know, this witchcraft community because we just don't. We're all witches. It is not just for women, it can be for men too. It could be anyone identifying with any certain gender or religion or status. Anyone can be involved in witchcraft. Last thing, you do not need to worry about the religious aspects until you're ready. It took me a long time to get into the religious aspect of this community, but to be honest, you don't really need it if you don't want it. Quick little thing I want to talk about. A lot of you guys are asking me, what things do I research once I want to, you know, be a part of the pagan, Wiccan, and witchcraft community? Like what do I do? Usually what I say is research something that you're really interested in, because that's how I started. I started by researching, you know, stones and their meanings, and then once I became really well versed in that, I moved on to another subject. I lightly discussed it in my last video, but a lot of you guys would like a list of things that you should research. These are things that I suggest. This is a video from one of my social media accounts that has like the list on there, so if you want to go check it out, I'll link it in the description. But so I'm looking at my phone right now, but this is a list of things that you can research to help further your craft. You do not need to research these things. This is just what I suggest because some people are like asking for a list. So there is history of witchcraft, which I did in the last video, types of witches, which we just did in this video, the difference between witchcraft, Wicca, and pagan, did that in the last video. Symbols, moon phases, deities, altars, herbs and crystals, the elements, energies and auras, types of spells. Do not perform the spells until you're ready. That's something that I have to make a point of. There's a lot of things that you should probably know before starting off spells. A lot of people have asked me, like, how do I know when I'm ready? It's one of those things where you kind of are just like, you know. Like, you know when you're ready. I can't tell you like a certain time because like it's subjective. For me, 6 months, then I was ready. For other people, it's a year, it's 2 months, it's whatever, but I do not suggest like immediately when you start off doing a spell. Please don't do that. Because I know for a fact that you don't know enough. You don't. You haven't researched enough in a day to know what you're doing. So that's like a basic list. I will be going over these in like later videos that I'm going to be filming later. So when you're researching, I suggest keeping some notebooks. I will talk about this in more depth in a later episode, but you can keep different notebooks for different types of research. So this is one of my notebooks. I love her. My parents got it for me for Christmas. This is turned into my episode planning notebook. As you can see, there's all of the episode plan for this one. But yeah, this has like spells and ritual plans. That's what this notebook is. But when you are researching, make sure that you write everything down, especially things that interest you, things that you think you should know, and just keep it recorded in a notebook because that will help you, because for a fact, I can tell you right now that I can't remember everything. I've been practicing for 2 years, which really isn't a lot of time, but like I have been, and I can't remember everything, you know, so notebooks always help. So that's about it for this episode. Thank you for watching. If you would like to watch the first episode that I filmed, that is the history or basic history of witchcraft, I will link that below. And yeah, that's about it. Also, keep tabs on my mental health and illness documentary. I'm working really hard on that, and I'd really love it if you guys could watch that one too. Thank you.